Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and as always, I'm joined by my good pals Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael, their custom is to debate, deliberate, and talk about the top four aspects that are most ubiquitous and most debatable of any given topic. And this time we are debating the Mount Rushmore of, look, even as a nerd, I think, fill in the blank, is absolutely awful. Who chose it?
This is my topic. And I think that sometimes you can love something a little too much.
Yeah.
And a lot of my choices are about, I guess like this came up, my first pick, which we'll get to, specifically was the reason why I thought of this. Mm-hmm. But basically, there are times when you are into a particular fandom or into a particular sports team or into anything in general, and you're just way too far. And in spite of how much I might respect it on the periphery or enjoy whatever it is, just stop. And just like, I think that it creates that sort of moment of just like,
yeah. I guess the listener should know Michael's wearing a Sailor Moon costume right now. It seemed like the things that we love.
It's Sailor Mercury. So
sorry. Well, I love this, and I think the niche fandoms who follow us out there, you know who you guys are. All of you will love it too, because it does seem like a little bit of wisdom and growth to confront the fact that that thing that gives you so much enrichment, your fandom, your interest, is also a thing that you don't need to take so seriously. The fact that you can actually kind of evaluate some of it and realize part of this thing isn't for me.
I think that in America right now, we currently live in a point when a lot of people need to look in the mirror about who they are and what they're, not necessarily like a fandom or whatever, but just who they are as a person or what they believe in, and really take a good look and be like, this is what I'm looking at. It's not like I'm looking at it from a skewed angle where I see something else. It's like you're looking at you need to look yourself in the mirror and be like, this is what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
It's very, and there's a lot of mea culpa in this.
Okay.
All of this.
That means my bad.
There's a lot of like self-reflexiveness in this. This is going to be a very cathartic episode.
Oh, I love it.
I'm sorry. So that's where I just wanted to let you know where I was coming from. I don't know if, Richard, you had any initial opening thoughts or salvos or whatever.
Well, I went slightly different. I think that a lot of mine are more, hey, I'm a nerd about a big topic. So you would think I would like X. Turns out I really hate it.
Oh,
so it's kind of more like that.
I like the different takes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Michael chose the topic. Richard begins.
All right, so this is the one that is the most general of them all. This isn't even about a specific nerddom or anything like that. It is more about just the type of culture that I think we all grew up in. I don't like coffee. I really fucking hate coffee.
Oh, wow.
And I think I think we all grew up in the same, rough time period where going out and getting coffee was something that became a thing that you did in the 90s, going to the coffee house. In our case, I mentioned before that I grew up in a small town, and really the only thing we had to do most nights, because I didn't drink, was go out with my friends to Denny's. And we would sit at Denny's all hours of the night. And you start to realize when you don't drink coffee and you're sitting there drinking your fifth or sixth refill of soda, the waitresses get really pissed at you about that. But but if you're drinking like your fifth or sixth cup of coffee, no one thinks anything about it. I've tried. Like, I've really tried with coffee. This is because I know it's something I should be drinking. I feel like all my friends drink it. When you tell someone oh yeah, I don't drink coffee, I don't like it, there's nothing else that you'll get more of, like food or drink wise, that you get more of a really?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of, and a little bit of like a scornful, I'll get scornful kind of looks. Like Sarah, my wife, is, anytime this comes up, she kind of is like, well, you've just never had good coffee.
Oh, I reject that completely.
I've had many varieties of coffee, and it's such a cultural thing, right? To be, I think, of a certain age, and I can't go to Starbucks. I have to get like the crappy, like super non-coffee, like vanilla bean $12 like milkshake, basically. That's what I can get at Starbucks.
This seems to stem from, it feels like two different branches. One is like the over-commercialization of coffee via Starbucks and their competing brands.
Richard was beaten within an inch of his life by a guy named Juan Valdez.
Mention that name. You know not to mention that name. Him and his burro.
Picks the coffee bean one by one. What's the other aspect?
The other aspect, I think, is the specialty coffee shop, which
Right.
it seems like, I don't know, you seem somehow to walk right down the middle between those two at Denny's, where that's the fast food chain that's serving coffee up all night as a social thing, versus Starbucks, which is you go in, you get your specific coffee, however it's made, and then you leave, or you go to a coffee shop and you get your cappuccino or whatever, and you hang out with your friends and chat all night and listen to somebody play an acoustic version of Smooth Criminal,
I guess, right? No, that's the thing. It's like,
but like your version of it was interesting. Is like right down the middle. It's like you're out with friends, but you're going to like the shittiest place possible, and like you're trying to get some sort of enjoyment out of both, or you're like caught in the middle. It's interesting.
well, I couldn't even as when I moved here to Los Angeles. This was mid '90s when right in the middle of the coffee house kind of culture came up, and I would hey, let's go see a movie. Then, we'll go afterwards, go get some coffee over at Insomnia or Stir Crazy or something like that and go talk about the movie, to dissect it to like the nth degree for like 3 hours. You learn what you can order that's not coffee at coffee houses, and it's a pretty slim. You can only have so many, Italian ices in your life.
All right. So in this instance of being the nerd or the person do you consider yourself a foodie, or do you consider yourself like a
I would consider myself a foodie. Yeah, I guess
okay.
I would. I think I'm a food aficionado. I like eating. I think that's pretty clear. But no, I do like I like trying a lot of different foods, and I'm pretty worldly with my food tastes. And so I think that's why I've tried, because I even like the smell of coffee. I love the smell of coffee. So I have tried and tried and tried with it, and it just tastes like burn. It just tastes like somebody burned something, like a scrotum.
I will say
something got burned, and now it's in my coffee mug.
I have worked as a barista. I've enjoyed. No, I'll say I've drank. I have drank of the magic bean since I was probably 11 years old, and I do flash back to the moment when I first tried coffee and tasted this beverage that I'd seen adults taste and talk about and discuss, and seen in the Folgers commercials, and seen people socialize over coffee, and realized it wasn't good. And it is something I recognize I consume multiple times per day, that I can really think it tastes like dirty hot water.
And then it's like, well, just add more cream to it, or add more sugar.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I wanted something that tasted like cream and sugar, I would just get a creamer
sugar,
and just put it straight into my mouth.
I would also say the same is true for beer and wine. Like, I remember when I first tried beer, after seeing people sing about it in commercials, and my friends who were my same age, risk their potential college entrance on, buying it illegally and stuff like that.
True.
It's just, I remember tasting it. What the fuck is this? Tastes awful. I just got used to it.
I didn't have that with beer. I had that with wine. It took a while. I think everyone goes through the progression of, well, I don't like wine, to, well, I don't like red wines, to eventually being winos. That's the progression.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think you asked about a foodie thing. Yes, I consider myself a foodie, so it is kind of a thing that bums me out. It actually bums me out. But it's just more sort of, I think, part of the nerd/geek culture of the 90s, going out and getting coffee and going to a coffee house and playing board games or doing whatever you did there was a big part of that culture. Maybe just here in Los Angeles, I don't know. But and I just always felt like I was an outsider, kind of interloping along. Let's go get coffee. Okay, well, do you think they have sodas there? And I'd have to bring my like big gulp into the coffee shop or something.
Michael, what's your first?
Okay, let me preface my first choice by saying, for 10 years, all three of us for a decade plus played in an adult kickball league.
Yes.
Often those teams that we were on, some of my teams, whether it was the Hobo Olympians, where we dressed up as literal hobos and Olympians smashed together and would play the entire season dressed up in costume, or we were the Utica Knickerbockers, where we dressed up in turn-of-the-century, old-timey, overly blousy baseball shirts, and I made sure that every picture that was taken of us was in sepia.
Yeah.
We all had handlebar mustaches. I understand that I did this for a decade. But people that play Quidditch in real life as a sport is... Look, it's absolutely awful.
Yeah.
When there are people that are running around with a broomstick
Yes.
between their legs, pretending to play a sport that requires magic.
Yes.
Now, if you're not familiar with Quidditch, because you don't really, you've
not
never seen a Harry Potter.
I haven't. I've
And
ridden the ride.
Richard,
at
Richard,
Universal.
I've seen them, and I've
bits and pieces. You have
ephemera,
two. You have two children, and
who've had the whole thing read to them at this point. Yeah.
So, Jeff, there
Yeah.
are 3 or 4 different positions on this magic field that's played by people that use magic, that use equipment that is magical.
There's missionary position. That's one of the positions.
There's the keeper. That's basically the goalie. He's on his broomstick.
Yeah.
He catches stuff, prevents goals being scored.
Yeah.
There is the chaser who tries to throw like a magical ball through these big hoops and score 10 points. There's someone called a beater who's basically like a defenseman who uses a bat to knock things around, usually to hit other players too.
Yeah.
And then there's the seeker, which is the Harry Potter character, who flies around trying to catch this tiny little ball that's worth 150 points. And once you catch the ball, it ends the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is in this magical world because they need Harry Potter to be the most important person on the field as well as in the story that's named after him.
Yeah.
So the sport makes no sense as a sport. Like, no other game is built like this
I don't
in
know.
real life.
When I see cricket, I don't understand it, but there are rules and things to cricket.
There's nothing in cricket that, like...
Is beholden to a story.
There's nothing in cricket where the sport ends after, in theory, 10 seconds, or it can go on for a month.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
it's a nonsense world. People trying to play this in real life is so infuriating. When your fandom takes it to the level where you think that you can do this thing, is just like,
Let me ask you, what's less real, or what's more authentic about professional wrestling? That's
not
Okay.
real,
Okay,
Jeff.
but
I don't
I
know
mean-
if you knew this or not. That's not real.
So, but you'll accept that as entertainment,
Sure.
as sports entertainment.
Yeah.
It's incredibly athletic. It doesn't sound
it's-
like there's anything
No,
athletic in this Quidditch.
they're athlete actors that are enacting something that is amazing to watch. That sometimes, as a normal person, you're like, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
This is the opposite of that. So, Jeff, I would like you to read a little bit from some of like the history and the rules of Quidditch in real life.
Okay. In 2007, the United States Quidditch Association,
Get out of here.
back then named the Intercollegiate Quidditch Association, or IQA, was founded to regulate Quidditch in the United States and abroad, a very popular sport amongst college students.
There's citation needed for that. There's no way that this is a very popular sport.
According to the International Quidditch Association, the current international governing body of the sport, the original rules and regulation of the popular collegiate sport known as Quidditch were formed, quote, on a sunny afternoon in 2005 by Xander Manshell and Alex Benep, students at Middlebury College in Vermont, U.S., end quote.
This feels like something that I wrote in the Wikipedia entry for the Awesome Helicopter Ninjas, which was our kickball team.
Right.
That Wikipedia immediately deleted because it was
Ridiculous.
unprovable.
Yes.
In contrast to the fictional sport, the game is played on foot while using one hand to hold a broom between the legs and can get quite competitive.
Yeah, okay, whatever, nerds.
The game is also sometimes referred to as Muggle Quidditch to distinguish it from the fictional game, which involves magical elements such as flying broomsticks and enchanted balls.
The magic game involving magical people is built around the concept of magic.
The sport has since then spread across more than 25 countries and includes multiple international tournaments, including a World Cup in 2012. The International Quidditch Association held the IQA World Cup, then named the IQA Summer Games, as the torch was passing through Oxford, UK for the Summer Olympics.
This is awful.
The ultimate goal is to have more points than the other team by the time the snitch, a tennis ball inside a long sock hanging from the shorts of an impartial official dressed in yellow,
sweet
is
Jesus.
caught. To score points, chasers or keepers must then get the quaffle, blah, 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 blah. The game is ended and the snitch is caught by one of the seekers.
Wait.
Okay.
Reread that part where it was something about.
Hold on. Before you get back to the dangling ball that's hanging out of the guy's shorts, they changed the rules where the snitch is worth 30 points because the magic game makes no sense.
Oh.
The game in the book and on screen is an awful game for someone who enjoys sports to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to change it because they realized that in real life it wouldn't work either.
Right.
It's either you're playing the game and you're pretending to be wizards or you're not.
Yeah.
And I love Harry Potter. I've read all the books multiple times. I've gone dressed up as them for Halloween. I've gone to midnight launches. I've gone to see every movie. This is just bridge too far.
So wait, reread. So again, reread me the section about the ball dangling from somebody's pants.
I got it. The ultimate goal is to have more points than the other team by the time the snitch, a tennis ball inside a long sock hanging from the shorts of an impartial official dressed in yellow, is caught. This guy or girl runs around the field with a long ball sack hanging out of their pants. What is going on?
You know, this seems to me, this reminds me of when I attended Celebration 2, the Star Wars convention thing, getting ready for Phantom Menace? No, the next one, Attack of the Clones, the second Star Wars, whatever. I was at a Star Wars con, and people like to fight with lightsabers. Sure. These are plastic lightsabers, the kind that telescope out.
This is a great poll.
And what they want to do is to be observed loving Star Wars more than anybody else who happens to be standing out in the sun outside a convention hall in Indianapolis at 10 a.m. And I think it almost seems like a performance of your passion, and so that others may observe, almost like speaking in tongues at some kind of Southern Baptist. Maybe I'm getting them. Sorry if I'm getting the sect of religion wrong. But
no, but these people think it's a legitimate sport. That
they are
should be
testifying.
Possibly played at the Olympics.
They are testifying, it seems, which definitely
Sorry,
takes
Rich.
it out of the realm of sport and into the realm of performance. Yeah. But they don't think that. Right. They think they're doing a sport.
Well, it's funny because, and all of this is wrapped up around like the kickball thing, and we definitely entered playing kickball with a loose sense of, it was always for fun. We always played it as a sport, but we did
it with a sense of theatricality.
Yes, I think that there was a self-awareness. We're talking about mirror looking.
Yeah,
we knew what we were doing.
I don't think they know what they're. I don't think they get it. No,
a lot of grumbles.
Yeah, I get it. Richard, what do you got?
All right, so I'll stay in the world of the sports and not really an actual sport. Fantasy football.
Also on my list.
Is it?
Yes.
That's unbelievable. Because, look, I love sports, but fantasy football is... it's awful.
Yes. Listen, if your team name is a pun based on the interior lineman of the Tennessee Titans, if somehow your football team is called, like, the Jack Conklins and Coke, like, you have trouble because you think that's so clever.
Right.
No one else cares.
What's the name of my fantasy baseball team this year, by the way?
That's right.
Yaz's Sideburns. Because if you can shoehorn a Simpsons reference, do it wherever you can.
Yes.
Look in the mirror, Richard.
I am a
That's
Simpsons.
awful.
I am a Simpsons reference. I didn't put fantasy baseball in here, and let me tell you why. Because
No, listen,
I will.
This is a guy looking in a funhouse mirror right now. He is just trying to absolve himself of all sins. No, this is exactly the same.
No, allow me to say why I think it's different. Because at least with fantasy baseball, look, you've got 162 games in the real baseball season. And I understand that now you and I co-managed a team for a year, a fantasy baseball team.
Yeah, it was awful.
And it's harder in a lot of ways because you have to make sure your guys aren't on off days, make sure you have your starting pitchers in the lineup at the right time, all this kind of crap. But as a general rule, like, the best teams, whoever picks the best teams generally wins because you got 162 games of results. And it all kind of evens out, right?
Congratulations for the work that other people have done, Richard.
I feel good about it. Yeah, I feel like what I accomplished.
You've done nothing.
I did nothing.
The people, listen.
But no,
I did it for a couple of years. I played fantasy football for a couple years. I played fantasy baseball with you for a year and hated it. Hated all of it. It's this is what it comes down to for me. The people that are way into it are way into it, not realizing that they are basically just like nerds. Like if you're into comic books, you're way into comic books, and you go to conventions dressed up in your character. Same thing. You're dressed up as someone from the Raiders wearing a Raiders uniform, waiting in line all day to go see the Raiders.
Sports fans are cosplaying as athletes. Yes. And sports fans don't realize that they obsess over kind of minutia and details and statistics in the same way that...
amazing, Spider-Man number 17, he fought Thanos.
Right.
I know this.
And everyone, and sports fans have these very specific opinions about how things... Well, a team would be playing so much better if they just X, Y, or Z. Just like, the comic book nerd would probably have a very similar... Well, if Rob Liefeld would actually learn how to draw feet or something like that.
He would be the best feet drawer
ever. So I just for the fantasy football thing, just real quick about this.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that seemingly, maybe this is just me, but somebody is going to break their foot on opening week, and your season's just screwed. There's not enough. You have a smaller amount of players and a smaller amount of games. So that one injury basically can screw you for the entire season. And you're just done. I hate that. It just drives me up the wall that it's like that. But yeah, no, I admit that me playing fantasy sports, I had my draft today, and Sarah had to go take the kids and shuffle them around.
You're ruining the relationship with your kids over fantasy sports.
I did. I'm damn proud of it.
I think what gets to me too. How often are you guys in your break room and you overhear Todd just telling about the awesome game that his fantasy team had done over the weekend, and just he scored so many points, and I tune out everyone in the office anyway, but this just peaks. This is when the trebles turned way up and everything gets real
getting a little feedbacky.
Ooh, and I'm just nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I hate the people that do care too.
Did you ever have an in-office league that you had to do?
I've been offered to play, but I only played a couple years with some friends.
You did the AKT league, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did the inter-office league, which adds the enjoyment of people shit-talking coworkers, and then people getting angry because they're legitimately getting angry because they're getting shit-talked. Or we only have 7 people, so let's try and talk the IT guy in who doesn't know anything about sports, and then let's try and talk him into bad trades the whole year. Fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
Jeff, I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
How would you feel, because you brought up wrestling earlier.
Yeah.
How would you feel about fantasy wrestling? If you picked a, quote, team based on something that was written as performance, so that you had to get points for whatever happens on screen or whatever happens within their relationships on screen.
Is it based on the last season? Wait, is it based on this? It's based on this season.
Sure, because let's say wrestling is, quote, live,
yeah,
and that storylines and things happen. Do you think that is...
It seems like the...
Because it exists.
The things
in case you were wondering.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
How we...
Yeah, I don't know. Because...
Wow.
It's a written show, so I don't know.
You can bet on wrestling.
That's ridiculous, too.
You can bet on wrestling. There are places online, in the UK and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, this is such a delicious topic. Let's take a break, shall we? Let's take a break and do our halftime. Not a fake sports halftime, but a real podcast halftime. And let's give the listeners something that they could enjoy, and that is a free Audible trial. A free audiobook download when you do the free 30-day trial, giving you an opportunity to check out the service of Audible. You could try Fantasy Football, The Next Level, How to Build a Championship Team Every Season by David Dorey and Nicholas Tukoski. That's right.
Only draft kickers.
Yeah. By the way, I have some friends who have an all-punter.
All punting fantasy.
All punting and kicking league, yeah.
That's when you see... This is when the people that have gone too far, that they're so bored of what they're doing that they have to find a niche thing within the thing.
Yeah, it's all kickers. All just kickers.
With Audible, you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial by going to www.audibletrial.com/Rushmore. They've got 180,000 titles, probably 200,000. I've been saying 180,000 so long.
They've added at least one more.
Yeah, at least one more. 181,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And Zune. I just said Zune. Could be, maybe not. To download your free audiobook today, go read Fantasy Football The Next Level, how to build a championship team every season. Go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Rushmore. And we, like other podcasts, we like to support them because all boats rise with the tide. And when you go out searching for underdog emerging podcasts, maybe you'll give a listen to this one we're about to play a promo for.
Hi, I'm Erica,
And I'm Billy.
host of Martinis in the Macabre, the podcast that covers all things murder, mystery, and mayhem.
With some alcohol and dark humor thrown in for good measure.
We'd like to invite you to the Martinis in the Macabre cocktail hour, where we'll delight you with the soothing sounds of gruesome murders,
Mysterious disappearances.
the paranormal,
Dark folklore.
and many more. Act now and we'll throw in dancing plagues for free.
Yes, you heard that right. Dancing plagues.
So check out Martinis in the Macabre, available on most podcast apps and always at martinisinthemacabre.com.
Zoop. Zoop. And we're back. And hey, you've supported another podcast by listening to a promo. Support our podcast by going to iTunes and downloading and rating and reviewing past episodes. We really appreciate that. And we're also on Stitcher. You can find us there. And you could also go to Facebook, go to Instagram, go to Twitter, and connect with us on social media. And when I say connect, I mean you can suggest a topic that we would discuss or put comments on podcast topics we've already discussed, or meet hot singles who are looking to have sex in your zip code.
Huh?
I just
What? What are we doing? Richard, what did you sign us up for?
Wait, I told myself I'd be less douchey. Sorry, don't listen to what I just said. But we'd love to hear from you and get you or your idea in the hopper for a future episode. Other people suggested episode titles, and they've been on our show.
Like Patty Cullum.
Like Patty Cullum. We are back, and we are discussing the Mount Rushmore of... What is it, Michael?
Look, I'm a nerd, and even I think that my third choice, cosplay, and how good it's gotten, is awful.
Awful.
So, my third topic. This is... My next two are kind of hand in hand, and they feel very old man shit.
Okay.
Get off my lawn type stuff.
Yeah.
I miss the days when you'd look through Wizard the Guide to Comics and you'd see the guy dressed up as Dr. Octopus and his arms were made out of like the
tinfoil.
The dryer,
HVAC.
dryer
Dryer
cover,
tubing, yeah.
dryer
Flexible
tubing
vent
with
tubing.
tinfoil fingers and like you're just like, good on you, mate. You're going out like that.
Yeah.
It's like low level Halloween.
Yeah.
But you see pictures of people that do cosplay, quote, professionally, either like as Instagram models or go to various cons dressed up, whether it's like SakuraCon or just Comic-Con or the aforementioned Jedis running around, what's the Star Wars con?
Celebration.
Yeah. And their costumes are too fucking good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it makes me feel ashamed. Not that I ever dressed up, but it's just like the fact that you can use like makers to custom print your perfect costume is just, and that like people have made a business out of dressing up as a really good version of an anime character that I have no idea who it is and will never know. Is like just out of this world.
What is the implication?
I don't know.
What is the implication that when, what is lost when perfection is gained? Is it that the sincerity with their love for the thing.
It's like this uncanny valley thing when when you see like Jason and the Argonauts, and it's that Ray Harryhausen, it's kind of mishmash and kind of bad, not really real.
Yeah.
And then you compare it to something that is put out today, and it's CGI, and it's too perfect, and neither of them are what you want. You don't want something too perfect in a homemade costume, and you don't want something that's like, you don't quite want the guy that's dressed up like Dr. Octopus, like with the the dryer tubing arms. You want something that's just like, wow, you put a lot of work into it. I can see the seams a little bit. It does look like a costume. Yeah. And I appreciate that.
I feel like it's an attractive woman. You see an attractive woman holding hands with an ugly guy, and you think, she got to love that guy. Either he's loaded or she just loves him. And I always feel like if the person they've used their imagination and their passion to fill in the blanks.
There is definitely, that is a really good point. There is a cleverness, like fixing a problem that I really appreciate. But when you can go to Party City and buy a perfectly fit unitard costume that's all one color, that's perfect, seamless, and you just put some junk on it, it's like...
So for you, is it the person who just buys it out of the box, let's call it, versus... the person who I remember, there was like a reality show about people who made like cosplay outfits, who would sit there and like, spend months making their costumes.
Well, I do appreciate a couple things about that. I do appreciate like these crazy costume conventions where someone goes through all the effort of making their amazing mecha outfit, and it's perfect, and it got the lights and all the different filaments, and it transforms into the stuff, and then like the hot girl walks in wearing the store-bought Sailor Mercury costume, and she wins just because she's good looking. Yeah. I think that's hilarious on a couple different levels. I don't mind like this. Yes, the store-bought costumes aren't those. What were the old Star Wars ones that used to be just like plastic, like a plastic Halloween
like
costume?
The vest sort of thing.
It was a vest. You had like the crappy plastic version of Luke Skywalker's face, and then you kind of had the costume, but it also said Star Wars on there. And
it was like vinyl, sort of.
Yeah. I
always seemed like there was a Boba Fett and then a picture of Boba Fett's face on the bib too. Like Boba Fett doesn't wear his own face on his bib. This is not.
I think that there is I think it's a mix. I think if you can take elements that are store bought and combine it with something that is original, I think that's fine. I think it's weird, and I haven't really dressed up my boy for Halloween once, and he's went as a monkey, so whatever. But like, I see those Spider-Man costumes, and they're like, whoa, they got a lot of muscles on there. Whoa, those look really. Those look like screen print, and they look perfect. And that's a great He-Man costume, and it doesn't look like the one that my mom sewed together for me. Yeah. And we're talking costumes as like a Halloween thing, but I think that like cosplay or how just good it is, it's just like, it's a little lot.
How do you feel about?
And I think it becomes a lifestyle, and I think part of that is like when this stuff is like all-encompassing, that's where kind of maybe my
How do you feel about like historical costuming?
Ooh.
And I ask you this knowing that Sarah will probably kill you if you give the wrong answer. My wife. My wife, Sarah, by the way.
Yes. I don't think there's any. I think it's a different ballpark. I don't think that. I don't know. Like I know.
Or like steampunk. How about that?
Well, those nerds.
That's a thing. Yeah.
I think that there is a culture around trying to recreate something that has existed. I don't know.
Michael, what's happening?
Oh, my powdered wig almost fell off. Where's my mount? I shall charge upon Boston. I've led this team of ragged ne'er-do-well farmers with all these mismatched uniforms. If only we would look like a uniform group. If we all had the same costume that was sewn to perfection,
uniform,
the same colors, it just looks like we're just goofing around. Oh, hello, young man. How are you? It's me, General Washington. That's right. Trying to lead.
Like pre-president Washington over here. Oh, you don't even know what a president is. Don't worry about it.
No.
Don't sweat it, yeah.
A president is when you do something first. That's right. And I will be the first to lead this group of farmers, many of uneducated men, many of them starved with scurvy and disease. I will lead them to
Sounds
victory.
like a great nation.
That's right. In this, I'll call it the Revolutionary War. That's what I'll do. That's right.
TM, copyright.
George
General Washington.
1776.
But hey, you want to see some kick-ass shit? These are my little men that I've done. I've decorated them and I've painted
wow.
them, hand-painted them. They're really cool. I've molded them myself. I spent about 200 hours on each little guy.
Yeah, can I see one here?
No, don't you messing. You're not playing right with it. Oh, you messed it up. You bent his bayonet. Confound you, sir. You're not giving enough respect
I've
to my...
bent some bayonets in my day, but...
I don't understand. Are you guys way into like action figures like I am? Aren't they really great? I mean, I've got hundreds of these, and I
I like this. I
10
have this King
hours.
George action figure that's my favorite.
Do not sully this fine day by mentioning that person. Give me that action figure.
I've got a whole French and Indian War set. I believe
give me
that
that.
you're actually in it,
Give
sir.
me that. I'm tamping them into my flintlock here, and I shall use them as musket fodder. Oh, God. Guys, I'm back. Looks like General Washington killed himself.
It was a
He
a real wild scene there.
He couldn't tell a lie,
He couldn't
then he had to die.
He just seemed like he was geeking out over some action figures or something like
Yeah,
that.
we got really off topic.
Bit of a nerd.
What
apparently.
a nerd. What a nerd.
I am okay with historical costume play.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I like your wife, and I don't want her to hurt me.
Thank you.
What, the brief bit of time after Swingers came out and the Cocktail Nation was like a terrorist cell, kind of like activated.
Oh, that was me, by the way.
That was you?
Oh, I was.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dear.
Were
Oh,
you,
dear. I saw
like-
that movie like 10 times in the theaters. No good.
Were you one of these people who was a purist in terms of like, oh, you're doing the East Coast Lindy or the West Coast Lindy?
Oh, no, I didn't. I wasn't. I mainly just wore like bowling shirts and went to 3 clubs or some the Sinatra room or something.
Because I'd heard like
that.
people snobbing out over that stuff. Like your clothes aren't vintage. You're mixing, Like,
Oh, I'm sure people did. I wasn't that. I was not hardcore into it. Like that. That's mixing douchebaggery and snobbishness into one very special bouillon base.
concoction and bouillon
Yeah.
base. Okay. All right. So now, what was that considered? Which exactly? What category necessarily? What would you say that the focus is? Cosplay?
Yeah, and how
Let's
good
go.
it's gotten.
Okay. Richard, what do you got?
Look, as Michael has said before, I don't like any music that was made after like 1994.
Okay.
We've
That
established this.
is indeed a fact.
And I really like classic rock, probably more so than most people my age. But the Doors are the fucking worst. They are such an abomination to music. They are my least favorite band, and it's by a fair sight. And this came up because last week's episode, our guest Patty made a reference to the Doors, and I don't know if you remember.
You physically tensed up.
I got a little tight. I sort of had to like back away because
Trigger.
I could feel like a rant about the Doors coming on,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't want to take this thing down that road.
We
So
had to put
here's our chance.
We had to put a bit in your mouth to keep you from foaming and hurting yourself.
I mean, I know a lot of people with musical taste that I respect who like the Doors. And when I hear that they like the Doors, I suddenly start questioning their musical tastes.
What don't you like about
It's just
Is it Jim Morrison? Because he's the one who turns me off.
that's the biggest
overrated.
part of it. I mean, wants people want to buy into him as sort of this like beat poet, sex god.
Yeah.
When really he was just like a bloated dad.
Okay.
That's how he sounded like to me. He always sounded like a dad singing. Touch me, baby.
Yeah.
There was nothing like revolutionary about that. And the lyrics they're what you think when you're like 17 or 19 or 20 and you think you're right. You've read Allen Ginsberg a couple of times and you're inspired to like write poetry.
Yeah.
That's the crap that comes out.
Yeah.
And it's just bloated. Everything about the Doors was bloated. It's like all the excesses of like bad classic rock 60s. You can start to draw that direct line from the bloatedness of the Doors and of Jim Morrison by the end.
Ooh, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I had to make a noise like a monkey there for a second.
Or Horseshack from Horseshack from
Cathartic.
Last year we did an episode on TV products.
Yeah.
And one of them was the like masters of classic rock. What was it?
Freedom Rock.
Freedom Rock.
Oh, turn it up.
Were the Doors represented on Freedom Rock or were they on like a compilation album that you would listen to everything like that was just like, oh, this is the classic rock of the 60s and the 70s and da-da-da, and the Doors would come on and you'd just be like, bink, gone.
I remember being a kid and MTV would have an hour every afternoon. This is back when they played music videos because I have to make that joke. They would have an hour of classic music videos like from the 60s. And anytime a Doors... Well, actually, I take that back. When I was in junior high...
Deep cut right here.
I thought that the Doors were cool. Because I was 12 and my brother thought the Doors was like one of those who bought into the Jim Morrison mystique and had like the poster of the one where he's kind of shirtless.
Yeah.
Had that up
he
on
got
his
Lizard
wall.
King Monthly.
Yeah, he did. And so I wanted to be cool like my brother. So I just started, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, oh, well, Jim Morrison must be cool. My brother thinks he's cool. And I listened for about a year. And then I just had some sort of break or something where it's just like, wait, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It was almost like having I feel like someone may have had an intervention with me about the Doors. Like, Richard, sit down. We need to talk to you.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Doors lately, haven't you?
Do you have a relationship with the iconography of any other character? I think of like people who were sold to young people in the 80s and 90s. Among them were, say, that frat guy had that Bob Marley poster.
Right.
That girl who had the Audrey Hepburn poster, or the Marilyn Monroe, or the Jimmy Dean, or something like that. There's iconography that outlasted the individual.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I feel exactly the same way about the Doors with you. And I had shouting matches with a college roommate who bought everything Jim Morrison was selling. All that.
Right.
These Funko bobbleheads.
Yeah. That
deodorant.
Everything. And I remember thinking the music, or the bloated, over-the-top, sex idol stuff was stuff that I bought from Elvis Presley. I wasn't buying from Jim Morrison.
It just always felt, with Jim Morrison, it always felt manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, because by the time I got around to starting to listen to him, he'd been dead for 15 years or whatever. So, there was no... He was a stand-in for what people wanted to assume 60s Los Angeles sexy rock god cool was. Mm-hmm. But when you look at him, like I think from a modern perspective, you just don't see that yet. It's hard not to see somebody who is just way overly very pretentious.
Yeah.
And certainly believed that he was... He bought into his own shit. Mm-hmm. I think we talked about that before. People who buy into their own shit or don't.
Yeah.
He bought into his own shit.
Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker.
I definitely think like a guy like Bowie, who had the overtop persona, who had the swagger, who had these cultivated identity, at least on stage.
Right.
He had a lot of the musical productivity and talent to back that up. A guy like Mick Jagger had swagger.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every great rock lead. Lou Reed had plenty of mystique. And,
right.
And there was a lot to want to know about that character.
I don't need to know anything more about Jim Morrison. I've learned all I need to.
Yeah.
And then even to the point where like we've talked about X being one of my favorite bands, and Ray Manzarek produced their first 2 albums and manages to get his organ all over several of the songs. And I remember, you listen to it and it's like, oh, here comes Ray Manzarek here just to kind of remind you, oh, hey, I was in the Doors. Yeah. It's like, get that off of the track. Go away.
Do you think that you had a pop culture recoil because of the movie? Because that was a 91 movie, so that would have been right in your prime. I'm headed off to college. I'm in high school. I'm primed to either.
No, it was before that. It was before. I had.
I'm always curious about like how
that.
Because there are times when that happens where something becomes so popular that you're just like, or a resurgence, or there's something, not necessarily you, but just one, and it's like, oh, I hate this now. I can't believe this is popular again. You're just like, the Doors. It's reminded me of everything that I've disliked and But wow, he does look like him.
I think for me, it was right around the time I started listening to punk. And it just felt incompatible. Somehow my brother was able to make it work, and God bless him that he did. But it felt incompatible to listen to punk and then also think that Jim Morrison was cool.
Yeah. I think the level of depth of when Jim Morrison lyrically asks you to challenge some kind of preconceived notion or comes at you with some kind of trippy psychedelic poetry, it's about as deep as like the plot of The Matrix.
Right.
Bro, the world you're living in ain't even real.
Which pill are you going to take?
Yeah. So, yeah.
That being said, Touch Me is a good song.
There you go. Okay. Okay, everybody say one good thing about the Doors.
Oh,
okay. All right. I love that they use tack piano in People Are Strange. That blink-a-ding-ding.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson used it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Michael, what's your last choice?
My last choice is tied hand in hand to my third choice, which is Comic-Con, specifically San Diego Comic-Con, and how overly marketed it has become. Like, and this is like one of those things where like maybe it's a flashback to I remember things being a certain way, and it's hard to divest from. But I grew up going to Comic-Con, even into my teens and 20s would go down, and it would be a place that you'd go to pick up back issues, and it would be a place that you'd go to meet your favorite writers and your favorite artists. You wouldn't go meet your writers, but you'd go to like panels with those artists and those writers. You'd go to see some cool comic book stuff and stand in line for autographs for forever and experience that aspect of it. But it's turned into this really strange movie, TV series, Star Wars, overly marketed thing that it's all about panels and all about seeing the first footage of some new movie. And it feels so far afield from what it feels it should be. And maybe it's just the LA-ness and the West Coast and being the industry is just here.
Right.
But it feels like other comic book conventions like WonderCon in New York and I forget what it's called in Seattle, Emerald City Comic Con.
Topeka Con. Yeah.
I think that there are probably smaller comic book conventions where you can go and meet Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Where you can go and hang out with the third guy that was in Battlestar Galactica. You can you can meet all the low-level guys that are just trying to make ends meet, signing autographs, and you overly pay, but your fandom has led you to a spot where you're okay with that versus whatever Comic-Con is now, which is just like 4 days plus a preview night of just like, I can't find the local vendors. I can't find what I'm looking for. It's everything is just inundated with way too good cosplay and guys swinging lightsabers around and people that are so into their own specific thing that it's just kind of a put off. And like for someone that grew up and spent 15 years collecting comics pretty regularly and reading them and feeling like I was part of a big community, it's just a very strange thing to see it kind of turn in a direction that you're just like, I don't know. You just don't feel a part of it. It feels like a community that's left you behind. And like I said, there's a very old man aspect to it that like it's hard to, but like I look in the mirror and I realize that's just not me anymore. And I can't expect it to change. It won't go back to that. I don't expect it to, but I can leave it in the past and be like, there was a time and a place for that and that's gone.
Do you think that some individuals who may have been searching for legitimacy or something like relevance in that world have become more mainstream? Like Stan Lee, a lot of people know who that guy is now. They might not have known him or recognized him.
I think so. Maybe it's also like a rise of the internet culture where you had to go to places like that to meet your people like that.
Okay.
I was different in that I didn't like talking to comic book people.
Yeah.
Like I had a lot of opinions about Spider-Man and Venom and whoever. I did not care what the other kid at the comic book store was telling me about him.
Yeah.
It was like, keep your dopey ass Spider-Man theories to yourself. I got mine and I'm fine. And when I'd be at Comic-Con, I would like still shy away from that even though people would talk to you. they had no filter about it. I don't know, like but I think that the internet culture where everything is happening all at the same time, you're talking to people online and they're all over the world. Everything is so interconnected that a specific thing where it's a group meetup doesn't feel. If I'm interested in the next Avengers trailer or whatever, I'll just wait for it to debut on Twitter.
Yeah.
In
do you feel like
5 minutes after it's shown at the convention or whatever?
Would you be the same? I don't know how long you followed what band you may have followed in their emerging stage, and now they've got a hit. Do you feel that way about that band? Like, I felt like they were.
No, I don't. I don't have like a peculiar or a specialness or an ownership over a certain band. Nor do I feel like bad if they get bigger and somebody else notices them.
Yeah.
I don't have like a me first. And certainly not me first in the Gimme Gimmes.
No, that's from our cover songs episode last week.
Nobody mentioned that.
I don't have I was into them first, and so I love them more than you, and you could not possibly. I don't have that sort of attachment. It's just something's gone. I don't know. Like, Richard, you were into sports and stuff. Did you go to sport card conventions, or did you do any of that sort of stuff?
Not really. I've never been an autograph guy. It wasn't something that I get excited about.
Yeah.
One time I did collect sports cards, but I wouldn't go to shows. I would go to the local collectibles place and BS around with the guy who worked there. But I tried to go to one time, and it's supposed to be meet Mark Grace of the Chicago Cubs, and he didn't show up.
No,
and you did not meet Mark Grace. You meet nobody.
I think that there's also maybe it's just in my youth I had a lot more patience. Like I waited 6 hours for Todd McFarlane's autograph.
Yeah.
And that was at when you're 12 years old or 13 and you've got, I guess, nothing else to do.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
But I could not imagine that. I wouldn't wait an hour.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wait. It's something that I think passes you by or you grow out of it. Some people don't grow out of it, but I don't know.
Oh my God, there's so much melancholy in this subject.
I think a lot of this is it's built on these things that you love. Like Richard loves classic rock, and Richard loves food, but hates. But the coffee is just and all of this stuff is, I think, built on a layer of love that's just degraded or eroded, or it's changed into something you don't recognize anymore, and you're just
it feels tainted. It feels Okay, Richard, what's your final?
All right, so my final one. I'll go back to sports for this one. I love soccer. I'm wearing a soccer T-shirt right now. I go and travel around the country to support my local soccer team as well as the national team. But this flopping in soccer, it's gotta stop. It's madness. And it's the number one thing that when I'm watching a match, especially if I'm watching it with people who aren't soccer fans like me, and I see a really bad dive or a really bad flop or some guy rolling around like he's been shot by a sniper, it just makes me cringe. And it's just sort of every 80s and 90s stand-up comedian was right about it, right?
About the sport and
because then, all you see is Italians rolling around, acting like they've been shot all the time, and it's that does happen, and I find myself trying to be very no. See, that really does hurt whenever you get your heel gets clipped out behind you like that when you're running. Oh yeah, you can pull a quad or you can strain your leg really easy. He's really hurt. No, he's not.
Stand-up comedians being right is really infuriating.
Especially 80s stand-up comedians.
Yeah,
paper towels do get that way.
Oh my God!
And what are you gonna
what are you? Driveway really should be called a parkway, right?
Have you tried airplane food?
That is such an interesting observation to pick up on. That's what kind of gets you, that needles you about someone being right about something that you love,
right,
and proving themselves right, and you eventually coming around to it. I think that's fascinating.
And then, therefore, it's this opens up the whole So I think as a society, I think right now in 2018, we're a little bit past soccer. It's not even real sport. That's what foreigners play and all that kind of. It's been accepted as part of the U.S. sports culture. I mean, it's not baseball or football or anything like that, but people at least now accept that soccer is a thing.
Yeah.
Right. But whenever you see this one part of it, it just brings back all of these being a soccer fan when no one else watched soccer and everyone like actively made fun of you for watching soccer.
He's the guy. He's the guy that was into me first in the Gimme Gimmes and can't stand it that someone else is listening to him now.
I had a bowling shirt, so again, not going to lie about it. But yeah, it just brings, so every time I see somebody like get barely touched and then do like double somersaults and like your body doesn't, when you get tripped, your reaction is not to have both your legs go backwards and your chest go flying out. That's not how the body works.
And
except if you're a 10-month-old baby, because they fall down in ways that you do not even know is possible.
They also bounce, so that's
it's wild
corollary, but it's also a good thing.
You find it undoes all your ambassadorship for soccer. You've evangelized the sport,
and then somebody sees some Italian guy like I said rolling around like they've been snipered, and it's like, oh yeah, no, that's bad. And it's kind of like you avert your eyes.
Yeah.
And, oh boy.
Oh, that's funny.
I think it's one of those things that helps to. It's an undermining of your own appreciation.
Yes.
When the one thing that happens to be true that happens every once in a while, that's like is happens in the sport.
Yeah.
That you're just like that causes this person to disregard every other aspect of it.
Right.
And makes you feel bad for liking it, even though you know
Yeah.
you like it for all the reasons that's not that. I love it for everything else, but this one thing that you're nitpicking becomes the thing that you're just like going to hang your hat on and not let me forget about the next time I see you at the water cooler or whatever.
And it's the thing that it's constantly like, oh, we need to get this out of the sport. And they try to like institute things and it never goes. And it's never going to go, I don't think. And as a fan, you just sort of learn to live with it and kind of like laugh at it when it's really bad, and or whatever, it's just sort of like this like institutional part of it. Mm-hmm. But when you're around it with someone who's not a fan and they automatically, that's what they latch on to, that's when it gets kind of cringy.
Yeah. It's interesting like being German and saying, we make such good chocolate. Why are you focusing on the past all the time?
It was a really bad thing.
I know it was bad, but it wasn't me.
But
it was
like,
my grandfather, but it wasn't me.
But like really bad.
Or if you were of a certain nationality and you want to point to the headline in the newspaper where it says,
do it like Jay Leno.
Guy, hey, so many of these Crimeans. Headlines, it's Crimean wins scholarship, but also Crimean robs liquor store. Which one are people going to pay attention to? Great, I like Crimean. Well, that was like Mike Tyson. That was Mike Leno Tyson.
We're close to Burbank, so that could have been Jay Leno just rolling by in his
Canadian tuxedo. Hey guys, you guys hear the podcast?
I'm driving a 3-wheeled car that runs on kerosene.
That's Curly from the Three Stooges. Is what that was.
Runs on Curly scene.
Suffering succotash. No, that's Yosemite Sam. Okay. All right, guys. This has been amazing. I haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to do that thing where I go, Richard, here's your particular psychosis.
Yes.
Here's your pop culture
I like this.
analysis. Many of your decisions, like you had one decision, you had one choice that was the same as Michael's, but they seem to be about you, like Michael said, taking the things that you love and trying to use them to search for legitimacy within your peer group or the group around you, or finding yourself in the world.
Sure.
Yeah. And like
coffee?
I'm a non-coffee drinker in a coffee drinking world, and that impairs my relatability to other people around me. Or I'm somebody who likes some musicianship that's more authentic than the Doors.
Right.
In a world where people love this phony
bullshit.
blowhard bullshit. Or like your relationship with soccer and how you're kind of evangelize. You believe it enough that you evangelize it. And then some bullshit happens. Like flopping. So I love how personal that is to you. And I think, Michael, it seems like your choices have been about you're seeking out your remaining authenticity in these things that had such an innocent charm to them that have been merchandised and sold. Those things that, like, it's like you have this crush on this sweet little young girl in your classroom, and next day she shows up, she's wearing makeup, and she's been, her hair's been bleached and
Tarted up real good.
Tarted up, You're
I
like,
don't know who you are anymore, Julie.
I don't know who you are. So I find it very charming, and I love how personal they are. But that doesn't have anything to do with the scoring. The scoring shall be thus. Fantasy football is up on the Rushmore, so I guess you each get a point for that. Just saying the Doors gets the bile into my mouth, so there'll be a point for the Doors. I love acting, so Quidditch and the picture you paint of
those idiots,
these super house Slytherin idiots. So that was pretty great.
Don't get me started on people that are convinced that they are in one house or another.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, Gryffindor.
Hufflepuff.
Oh my God. Okay. And I have dealt with a lot of cosplay folks, and there's a lot of range in that world there, but I do totally understand what you're laying down about the cosplay thing. And you know what? Richard, you made me do a little bit of a rewind when you mentioned coffee. So it did go back to that, flashed all the way back to the first time my dad let me have a sip of his coffee.
Points are we giving out this episode?
Oh shit! Did I overdo it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
we'll
you're the judge.
No, we'll stop at cosplay.
You get 5. You have a 5-headed Rushmore.
Take it away.
Do whatever you want, Jeff. Don't listen to him.
Oh man. Let's just.
He's really on the ropes now. What's he gonna do? Which devil is he gonna listen to? He's got
Devil
one
on one arm.
devil on one arm, devil on the other. We're both.
Ow! My back's just broke. Oh, my legs are broken. Oh, I'm gonna flop on the ground. Oh,
it's a pity. Oh,
a pity.
no.
Oh,
It's a tragedy.
So I'll choose flopping instead of coffee. Okay, so that was the Mount Rushmore of hey, I'm a nerd, but I don't really like the thing that you like. And this has been Rushmore. My name's Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.